Chapter 2. The Fulham Court Days. In 1934, we moved to Fulham Court. This was council property built along Fulham Road in 1932. We lived in one 3-4D block. The flat was very modern. There was a proper bathroom, a tiny kitchenette, a large, light and airy living room, and 2 bedrooms. The living room had an open fire instead of a kitchen range, and the walls were distempered a pastel green. Wallpaper was not allowed by the council because it was thought to encourage bugs. Eddie and I shared a bedroom. We had a put-up bed that during the day converted into a settee, giving us a nice playroom. The happiest years of my childhood were spent during the Fulham Court days. The sun always seemed to be shining and I didn't have a care in the world. Of course, there were a few bad moments. One in particular was when I disobeyed orders and took Eddie into the play area in the grounds of the court. There were swings and roundabouts there, and Mum thought that as Eddie was only 4 years old, he might get hurt. Our parents always seemed too busy to take us, so one day, unable to resist the temptation any longer, I went in with Eddie trailing behind. We hadn't been in there for more than 5 minutes when he stood too near one of the swings and was hit on the side of his head near his eye. What panic! There was blood everywhere, and I rushed him out of the enclosure as fast as he could run. My devious 6-year-old brain went into action. He would have to be briefed before we went indoors. So I told him to pretend that he had tripped over a pebble and fallen, cutting his head. He nodded obediently, and we went in. It was a dreadful moment. My legs turned to jelly when Mum began the cross-questioning, as she hurriedly got ready to take Eddie to have his wounds stitched. Eventually, I cracked under the strain, and the truth came out. I was severely reprimanded, and Eddie still has the scar at the side of his eye to this day. In our early years, Eddie and I didn't go out to play much with the other children. We were quite content to play indoors most of the time. Our favourite game was Mothers and Fathers. It was quite a complicated routine. Eddie would begin by being my husband, cycle off to work, and then become my son, Roy. It was like a play that we enacted over and over again, as children do in their fantasy world. Another strange game we played was pretending to be winkles on the seabed. We played this game on Sunday mornings when we had to be very quiet so as not to wake Mum and Dad. We had previously made the mistake of making noise, which had brought Dad rushing into the bedroom to give us a clip round the ear for disturbing his lie-in. So we pretended that the bed was the seabed, and we would wrap ourselves up in the bedclothes with only our faces showing, just staring at each other. There was always a quiet argument over who should have the eider down, as the fat ridges in it resembled the coils of a winkle shell. What funny children we were. I had a friend whose family lived in a flat on the same balcony as us. Her name was Marjorie Farrer, and when I was about 8 years old, I sometimes went out to play with her and the other children in the grounds of Fulham Court. I remember that there used to be seasons for various games. At certain times of the year, a particular game would be in fashion, and when that craze died down, another favourite would take its place. The games I remember most were tops and whips, marbles, 5 stones, and skipping. A game we played with marbles involved cutting doorways into the side of a shoebox and numbering each doorway. The idea was to roll the marbles into the highest value doorway. The child with the highest score was the winner. Very good for arithmetic practice. One day, Marjorie caught ringworm and gradually lost all her hair. She wore a little close-fitting hat for what seemed like years to me, though it was probably only a few weeks. Then something miraculous happened. Beautiful little auburn curls began peeping out from beneath the hat. But when the hat was finally removed in public, she had a mass of auburn curls. How I wished that I could catch ringworm, but I never did. So I was doomed to make do with my very ordinary straight hair. One day, Mum decided that my hair should be allowed to grow long, and when it was long enough, I wore it in plaits or pigtails, as they were unflatteringly called. On Saturday nights, my hair was washed and put into rag curlers by Nan. She and Grandad always spent Saturday evenings with us. How I dreaded those hair-curling sessions. While my hair was still damp, strips of rag would be produced, and a small section of hair would be wound around half the length of the rag. Then the remaining length would be wrapped over the exposed hair and the two ends tied in a knot at the bottom. All this entailed a lot of pulling and tugging to ensure the curls started at the roots. When I yelled in agony, Nan would say the immortal words, "Pride knows no pain." This added insult to injury because I didn't even like the finished result, which resembled a row of perpendicular sausages hanging around my head. So I don't know what pride had to do with it. The only people who were proud of the horrible ringlets were Nan and Mum. It was always difficult to sleep on Saturday nights with all those hard lumps digging into my head. The reason for the curls was church the next day, where everyone had to look their best. We attended Eucharist in the morning, Sunday school in the afternoon, and evensong in the evening. After we were confirmed, we also attended Holy Communion on the first Sunday of every month. We went to St John's Church in Walham Green, which was high church. At some time during the month, we were required to make confession, which I hated because, without sounding too pious, I just couldn't think of anything that I had done wrong. So I used to make things up. I remember once I confessed to telling lies when I couldn't recall having told any, but it was just for something to say. I then received a lecture on the sin of lying, but at least it passed the time away. I suppose that it was a lie to have said that I had told a lie when I hadn't, but that didn't occur to me at the time. In those days I was scared to put a foot wrong for fear of eternal damnation and hellfire. The thought of burning forever and ever was enough to keep me on the straight and narrow. Exactly how naughty I would have been without that threat is difficult to tell. Father Greaves was the vicar of St John's, and he was quite a character. His sermons were marvellous. No one ever fell asleep during them because he made too much noise, both with his voice and with his fist, which he would smash down on the pulpit to emphasise his message to us poor sinners. I think that he enjoyed delivering his sermons as much as we enjoyed listening to them. He was a born showman.